Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday, and it's a beginning of one of the best weekends I can remember in many, many years, with some of the marquee matchups we have to discuss and watch and enjoy that entertainment. Then we got the Major League Baseball playoffs, and who better to share this information with than Chad, Jesse, and Lady D here joining me as always for the Saturday edition. We usually have Jordan Capozzi, the executive producer of ESPN Syracuse shows that I appear on Friday afternoons. But, NC State just happens to get in the way here on the schedule, and they're playing at Syracuse early today. And, I like Syracuse to win that game, and I'll make that statement right now. I think Syracuse wins that game convincingly. NC State's quarterback is out, and that team is playing really, really well. But how about if we start with the Penn State Nittany Lions?
Let's do it.
Traveling out to Michigan to take on the overrated. What else can I say? What else is a synonym for overrated? Overrated Wolverines. And I think in the wild, don't you think a Nittany Lion would just tear the daylights out of a Wolverine in the wild?
If only it were that simple, John. If only it were that simple. A tiger should definitely destroy a volunteer, yet last week happened. So your mascot strategy, I don't think will play here, but I do like Penn State in this game, at least to cover.
Yeah, I think they win, and I'll be bold enough. I do this once in a while. I think they win outright. I wouldn't be surprised if it's by double digits. Ooh. So much of the media has made note of Michigan's defense and how they're flying around and how Penn State hasn't played anybody. But you know what? Penn State has a tougher opponent power rating than Michigan does. So I get tired of it. I really do. It just seems like James Franklin is always, has all the fingers being pointed at him instead of, some kudos once in a while for what he's accomplished there. I mean, when was the last time Vanderbilt was in a bowl game? And who was the head coach?
James Franklin was
of
a
Vanderbilt
coach
when they went to a bowl game. It was James. Yeah. Anyway, I am not a Jim Harbaugh fan. Never have, never will be. And you can't let that kind of thought process enter your handicapping. But once the game starts, the handicapping is over. And I do see Penn State taking this game. You guys have any comment on the dual quarterback possibilities here with the young freshman 5-star who has played fairly often this year for Penn State and has just an absolute cannon? In fact, I bet you that kid can throw 85 yards in practice, with nobody rushing him. If he just stood there and took a couple steps forward and unloaded it like an outfielder would do throwing home. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how this guy can throw. And he's also got the strongest legs I think I've seen since Jalen Hurts. He just pulls out of tackle. So my question is, do you think the combination will be used today to disrupt Michigan's personnel changes on defense? And is that an advantage, or will that make it too complicated for the freshman? You want to take that one, Chad?
Well, I think anytime you have, if you can run tempo and try to keep a defense from substituting, I think actually you do yourself a disservice when you start, subbing in quarterbacks and subbing in, different packages and things like that. Like maybe there may be a moment or two where you'd have to let him go out there and run a, maybe not a whole series, but at least a set of downs and go from there. But I think they're gonna pull out some wrinkles because look, as much as I want to jump on your bandwagon of this being a multi-score Penn State victory, I would love to see it, no doubt. But Blake Corum is legit, and he's good for busting off a run or two of 30 plus yards, and he's going to pile up the carries, and he's going to just slowly death by 1,000 cuts you. So I would not underestimate that element of it, and there may be some limited possessions for Penn State as a result. If Michigan can control the tempo and the clock with Blake Corum just doing his thing. So, but yeah, that may be a very very good way of approaching it. I just think that sometimes I think Penn State likes to run tempo, and you really disrupt that, because part of the reason why you want to run tempo is you prevent the defense from substituting. If you don't sub, they can't sub unless they can do it really fast. And if you're running tempo, they can't risk having guys being out of position. So,
Jesse,
I agree.
As soon as you get that beer out of your mouth, you want to make a comment here on the Penn State Michigan game? And just
I'm surprised you didn't mention Harbaugh's record versus top 10 ranked opponents since he's been at Michigan.
Oh, gee, what is it?
It's amazing, isn't it?
I think it's 4-14 straight up.
It is. It is. Yep. It's not good.
And then you got
it's actually good.
You mentioned the quarterback, the freshman for Penn State. I'd be concerned about J.J. McCarthy. I mean, when's the last time he played a top 10 ranked team? You got that? You got that stat for me?
I'd have to pull it up.
I don't.
I don't think he's played a top 10 ranked team. Is why
I don't think so either.
So a big game for a guy that doesn't have the experience in big games. Clifford's been here before. I'm not a huge Clifford fan. Clifford has had his ups and downs, but I think you could call him dependable, and certainly you could call him experienced. But you mentioned the strength of schedule. I mean, I don't think you can reiterate that enough. Michigan's schedule has been nothing short of a joke. Any discussion about Michigan's defense is laughable. I mean, when you played UConn and Hawaii and Colorado State, I mean, all but one of their games came against an offense ranked 98th or worse in college football. So whatever their defense has done, it hasn't done it against quality opposition. So we don't yet know. Michigan may well be the team that everybody thinks they are, but they certainly haven't proved it yet. They have an opportunity to do that today.
Yep. Yeah. Lady D, what do you have?
I hate to say Penn State to cover. I'm going to go with y'all with Penn State. It's looking stagnant right now with the numbers. Because you see, I like to look at numbers. I don't like to look at the players and stuff like that because it takes a lot of my time. So,
yeah, I agree. We really, as professionals, we bet numbers. The team really becomes irrelevant. It's the line, it's
the
analytics, and then you go with it.
So yeah, I'm gonna stick with Penn State, which I think they can do it. I do like this freshman quarterback too. So, but I don't know about the total. It's at 49 now. So. I think I'm going to lay off on the total, but I'm going to go with the spread on Penn State.
Yeah, so we're pretty unanimous there. Another big showdown is in the state of Tennessee, where there'll be more people in that stadium than there is population number in Knoxville. And needless to say, that stadium will be rocking as much as the big house in Michigan will be rocking. Or even Lincoln Financial Sunday night when the Cowboys come to town in Philadelphia. That stadium ought to be vibrating pretty good too.
Yeah.
But seriously, Tennessee is hosting Alabama, and they have an opportunity to finally beat Saban and put him in his place and get a huge win at home. But Jesse Schule, do you think they can do it?
I do. And I was watching College Football Game Day, and I was watching the interview with Nick Saban, and I'd been waiting on this spread all week because I knew when the betting public got an inclination that Bryce Young was going to start, the line would creep up a little bit, and Tennessee would be getting more points. Unfortunately, I couldn't wait until Saturday morning or Friday night. I had to pull the trigger early yesterday, so I got stuck with 7s and 7.5. But I'm not sure that that's going to matter. What I was hoping for, and I mentioned this on some other shows, but people always focus in on Bryce Young. Is he going to play, or is he not going to play? But what I think you should be focusing on is if he's going to play, how healthy is he going to be? Because him playing, if his shoulder's too sore to throw the deep ball. If he's one hit away from leaving the game and Milroe has to come in cold, there's no benefit to having him in there. Obviously, Saban's not going to throw him in there unless he thinks he's the guy to go. But if you listen to the interview with Saban this morning, he didn't commit to Bryce Young playing. He said, we're gonna see how he looks pregame. We're hopeful that he can go. He mentioned the shoulder soreness, and it was less than it had been, but still lingering. And a sore shoulder is not ideal for a quarterback. So, and then given Alabama's recent shaky performances, especially on the road, and how good Tennessee's been, you look to last year's game. It was a 7-point game in the fourth quarter before Alabama ran away with it. I really like Tennessee's chances here this week.
Lady D, do you think Tennessee can pull off the upset?
Yes, they can. I'm taking them. I'm right with Tennessee too. +9. Taking that. I agree with everything. +9.
It's good stuff.
I'm gonna take that, baby. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna run with it.
You already got one over on me getting 2 more points.
Yep.
Well, here we go. I like this comment here. Akbar in the chat room. Thanks for joining us. Penn State money line, Tennessee money line. I think he's implying a money line parlay.
And you can throw one more in there. I've already given this out this week. Add Kansas, and you got a 40-1 money line parlay.
And then Oklahoma State.
I like it.
Oh,
yeah, I like Oklahoma State too. I like Oklahoma State too. Like that. Look, that's why I was kind of mad that the contest wasn't starting today. Like there's some matchups that I love today in this college slate, and those are among them. But I want to say this about this Alabama Tennessee game, because Jesse brought up a good point that how healthy Bryce Young is. I think we won't know until we actually see how this game starts off and whether he can take a hit or not, whether his accuracy is there, and whether he's maybe favoring it a little bit. Because here's what I'll tell you: after watching Jalen Milroe the last 2 weeks, that when he finished that game against Arkansas and let Arkansas get back into that game before Alabama pulled away thanks to Jahmyr Gibbs and some busted plays, and then watching them almost lose at home to Texas A&M, who went back to Hayes King because Max Johnson broke his hand, and that Texas A&M team. They struggle. They struggle to move the ball. They struggle to score, and Alabama still they came within a hair of losing that game. I think Nick Saban looked at Jalen Milroe and he said, "There's no way in hell this dude is beating Tennessee next week. So whatever we can get out of Bryce Young, even if it's just having guys win one for the Gipper, so to speak." I think it's gonna be a very intense atmosphere, and I think that could make Alabama play a little better defensively. I think Will Anderson is gonna have one of the best games of his career possibly in this game. This is one of those like Heisman Trophy, if he's gonna still stay in the running for that. This is one of the games that would be a defining moment in that. So I expect him to come out and play well, but I think that this Bryce Young situation is not going to be something that we're going to know the outcome of until the game starts. I don't think we can even read anything out of what Saban's saying, because he's always very coy. He's he never cracks a smile. He's never going to let you know more than he absolutely wants you to know. But I will say this: I don't care how healthy Bryce Young is. There's no way he wasn't playing this week because Saban was not, unless he couldn't actually take the field. Saban was like, "No, man, you're going out there 75%. That's better than what Jalen Milroe was doing." So I think that we could see a very limited Bryce Young still out there playing. And I for all of those reasons, I'm going with I'm willing to take this L if Bryce Young is 100%. He's really, just on his game. I'm willing to take that chance because this number is too good to pass up. And Tennessee, look, Alabama gave up 20 points to Texas A&M. They gave up 19 and only scored 20 against Texas on the road. They gave up 26 to Arkansas on the road. Mm-hmm. Those offenses aren't even close to how explosive this Tennessee offense is. I saw that in my own backyard last week. I agree. And that's a good LSU defense that they lit up too. They had some things go wrong. Fumbling the opening kickoff didn't help. And the offense just didn't help the defense out at all. But still, this is going to be one of those games where every time Alabama has to punt the ball is going to be another ratchet. The python of the Tennessee offense will continue to constrict, and I think it's gonna put some serious game pressure on Alabama that they haven't felt, I think, with the exception of that moment at Texas, as Texas came back in that game, and then last week with Texas A&M. It's not something that they're really accustomed to. They've been blowing teams out otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we all agree the consensus. I think the live in-game bet is in play here for me. Like you said with Bryce, and bet 50% pre-flop and then see how Bryce looks. And if the shoulder is tender, or if he, I hate saying it this way, but Tennessee is going to take opportunities to bang that shoulder, as often as, even if it's just a love tap with the hand. They're going to nick and pick at him,
Yeah.
So, if it looks like he's struggling and the ball is sailing high,
that's
then
what I was going to say too.
Jump on Tennessee, and I think that's the key point.
Yep.
Is the ball sailing high. That's a sign that the shoulder just ain't right.
Yep.
Right.
Leaving balls arm side high is a telltale sign. Yep.
Also, the way Saban's calling plays might tip off how.
That's true. That's a good point. Yep.
If he comes out with a more conservative, yeah. So and of course, Alabama might be able to win or stay in the game that way, but it's certainly going to favor Tennessee getting points if Alabama's restricted in what they can do, and they have to run quicker, their offense quicker, getting the ball out quicker, not allowing him to take sacks, not taking the deep ball away. That's certainly something that I'm going to look to see if I can notice, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Good stuff.
What are y'all thoughts on the total? It says 67.5 right now, and everybody's on the over right now. It's like 70 to 69. I think this is going to go under. I don't like how even this is.
Yeah, there again, that's the in-game opportunity too, I think, is that if it starts out a little sloppy and Bryce isn't right and the points aren't going on the board, that total is going to come down maybe into the high 50s. And then if you like the over, then you get on it.
Mm-hmm.
And conversely, if Tennessee, even though it's Alabama, I mean, you guys are absolutely right. With this offense, Tennessee could put up 50
right,
on any given day they play, and maybe even more if they get some defensive scores. I mean, we just don't know how much Tennessee is going to score, but I think they're going to score a ton. So, I mean, it truly, if they want to win, it's first team to 50, and that should win the game.
Okay, I like that idea.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
I'm going to look at the live.
I think, I would look at the live, but I think Saban knows that he's got to keep this as limited as possible, and so he's going to do whatever he can to force Tennessee and Hendon Hooker to methodically move the ball down the field with like 10, 11, 12 play possessions, and I think we could see. I'm actually, if I lean anyway, I would lean under, because I think if I'm Saban, I'm looking at that as the only path to victory. If you get in a shooting match with Tennessee, you're going to lose. They can score. Hendon Hooker is really good. Throws a really good deep ball. They've got good receivers that create separation downfield, and then it's really hard to commit coverage to it, because if you do that, now you're opening yourself up for Hooker to break off a 35-yarder on a quarterback draw, or just like he breaks contain and he's gone. So it's a challenging offense to try to defend. So I think that what you do is you shell that and you keep it in front of you, and you force him to make 8 throws per possession instead of only making 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so that limits the number of possessions, and so we're going to end up with. I think we end up under. But it wouldn't be the first time I've been wrong in the last 5 minutes. So don't take that to the bank.
The best handicappers in the world are wrong 40% of the time.
Right.
Taking it to the paint.
Yeah, be careful.
Let's move on to this one intriguing game here with America's team now is the Kansas Jayhawks, even though they lost last week to TCU. They pushed against the spread in that game. The thing that sticks out, especially for probably new bettors looking at this game, Oklahoma is 3-3 coming off their worst performance in the Red River rivalry since 1924, I think it was, just getting waxed by Texas and scoreless against them. So how in the world is Oklahoma favored by 9 after opening as a favorite of 7 against a Kansas team with 1 loss? And a Kansas team is playing pretty darn well.
Jalen Daniels, that's the answer to your question.
Well, I think you're right. But why is Oklahoma a favorite of 9 points? Doesn't it make you want to take Kansas? Because Oklahoma hasn't really showed much of anything. They're 3-3 on the season.
Yeah.
What do you think, Lady D, of that one?
Oh, my God. I really don't like Kansas, but I'm going to have to take it because the points looking too good, and Kansas have been playing pretty good. They've been keeping it very close. So I'm going to have to, take the points. Kansas plus 10. Definitely. Let's see.
Yeah, it seems to be steaming in the wrong direction. And then, like Chad said, I could be wrong, for the second time in the last 5 minutes. I like that saying. It's pretty good.
Well, I mean, I'm wrong pretty often, so I just I've learned to not get too big of a head about this. Even when I picked all 3 of the baseball winners last night, and those were not the winners that everyone else was going with. So I was pretty proud of myself. I was pretty happy with myself, and then I remembered how bad of a last 2 weeks of college and NFL I've had. So I was like, yeah, let's. This game will humble me if I don't humble myself. But I want to say this about so Jalen Daniels, I think is what's cooked into that number. Heisman Trophy candidate, just explosive, doing all the things for this offense. Got hurt last week against TCU, and I think and they're talking about him possibly being out for the year, and so I think people are just overlooking because of how well he was playing. They're just overlooking how well Jason Bean played in his place to finish that game out. He was still, I mean, not outstanding numbers, but 16 of 24 is okay. That's solid, 67%. But he threw for 260 yards and 4 touchdowns against TCU. So, I think that show me where Oklahoma deserves this number. 49-0 last week.
That's what I'm saying too.
Did you check his numbers against Oklahoma last year? Because Kansas played Oklahoma last year, and they were leading in the 4th quarter of that game, and it was Jason Beam starting at quarterback, and he completed 17 of 23 passes for 246 yards and a touchdown. So I mean, he was the quarterback. They were leading in the 4th quarter. They're better than this year. Oklahoma's worse. Oklahoma's in a tough spot. I'm not concerned about the backup quarterback. I'm more concerned. I think that's not going to be the difference in this game. This game's going to be decided by, can Oklahoma get stops? They haven't been able to for 3 weeks now. And if they can't get them today, they're going to lose. Guaranteed.
Yeah. How crazy is it that Dave Aranda and Brett Venables, 2 of the most high profile defensive minds in coaching over the last several years, are both struggling to stop teams. Aranda he's under quite a bit of heat right now after that performance Friday night. It was ugly. What did they gave up 43 points. And Venables giving up 49 to Texas. It's one thing to give up 49 points in the Big 12. That happens all the time. Those offenses, they run a lot of spread, but to Texas in the Red River rivalry, you don't do that. You don't get away with that. He's going to have a hard time living that one down. And yeah, to your point, Jesse, that team last year, that Kansas-Oklahoma matchup last year, that was Caleb Williams, Heisman Trophy candidate playing for Oklahoma. That was a completely different Oklahoma team last year than what's playing this year.
And not a team that had reason to give up on their coach. Let's face it. I mean, do these guys even want to play for Venables right now? In fact, I've read a lot about people in Oklahoma were already calling for his head before the season started. Hashtag Venables is a fraud was something I saw trending. No, seriously. I mean, I'm not saying that I dislike the guy, but I know there's people in Oklahoma that do not like him. They weren't happy with that Lincoln Riley's gone and he's coming in. That's not there's going to be some people that are not behind him right now.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, good
I
stuff.
like it.
Why don't we move on to the next game?
Would you
I
say?
gotta
Sorry,
exchange notes.
There you
We
go.
gotta exchange notes.
Yeah.
I'm just
You know
going
that
to
you
present
always
this.
gonna do that.
I do these, you guys know I do these videos. They're less than 2 minutes and they get right to the point, and they are best bets that I believe in. It's not just throwing something out there so I get likes and retweets and stuff. And one of them is pretty good. It's actually very good. I'm hopefully pulling up the right one here. Let's see if that's it. That is it. And, Jesse used the word fraud for that head coach. Well, I think the Miami Hurricanes are in the same light of that word. And in this situation, we are all over Virginia Tech. And Virginia Tech is backed by this angle that has gone 43-21 with one push, 67% winners. And even better if it's a dog, which they are, and have won less than 40% of their games on the season, 33-9, 79%. And you bet on dogs, just like it shows there, 3.5 to 9.5 points. The dogs coming off 2 ugly losses against conference foes by double digits in each one. And the game's taking place in the meat of the schedule, weeks 5 through 9. I do like Virginia Tech here to pull off the upset, so sprinkle the money line accordingly. All right, let's move on to, Oklahoma State TCU. That's a good one to take a look at. Before we do that, NC State is playing at Syracuse today, and with our good friends at ESPN Syracuse and Jordan, who appears on this show every week that he can, with the exception of when they have a noon start, which is, I think actually it's 12:30 is when they're starting today.
Mm-hmm.
I just think without their quarterback, NC State's in big trouble. That stadium is going to be full. It's going to be rocking. There's a lot to support with the Syracuse team. And, that quarterback didn't do so well last year against NC State. He was pretty much humbled by the NC State quarterback that is now hurt. So they're 5-0 for the first time since '87. And they went 11-0 in 1987 was the last time they were 5-0, and they lost to Auburn in the Sugar Bowl.
That was Don McPherson, wasn't it? Back then.
It was.
Yeah.
Garrett Schrader is the starting quarterback for Syracuse, and he went 17 for 17 last week, becoming the second FBS player to do that. And granted, it was against Wagner, but it's like when you play golf, you say, what did you shoot today? Well, I shot 77. And then somebody says, what tees did you play? It doesn't matter if you played the tips or if you played the reds or the golds. You still have to make the shots, and you still have to make the passes. So I think this kid in this offense is really in full gear, and they're going to get the revenge that they want. Does anybody disagree with that, or do you agree? Or
I do not disagree.
All right, fine. We'll move on to TCU. Oklahoma
I disagree.
State.
Well, wait, hang on. So I would have disagreed before I found out that Nick Leary wasn't going to play, but I have to step in here and call into question Jordan Capozzi's priorities, because what the hell are you doing your job instead of being here? You never turn your back on family, and I just want to call him out.
To his credit, though, Chad, I think he would rather be here. I think he
you probably would. You probably would.
Oh, like you're missing somebody.
I'm just messing with you, Jordan. It's all love. I had to get that shot in though.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one. I mean, he's probably got the show on off to the side, so it'll be interesting to see if
Maybe so.
all of a sudden we get a response here. I'll be sure to keep the chat room open here. Anyway, let's go to TCU and Oklahoma State. TCU is up to 4.5. I think I see now. I'll get right to the point. I think Oklahoma State's the better team. They are on the road, which offsets it, but I do think Oklahoma State's the better team on both sides of the ball, especially defensively. So I lean towards Oklahoma State in this matchup set to start at noon. Let's start with Lady D and see what she thinks.
They opened at 3. Now they're at 5. TCU has been playing pretty good. That was a huge line jump, actually. And when that was all this morning too, I think. Yep. When I see that, I tend to go with the dog. So I'm gonna go with Oklahoma State, even though TCU has been playing good, and they're at home too. So I don't know. It's Oklahoma State or not. I have to take the points.
Well, looking at the betting flows that I get from 12 different books, it's not offering anything other than the fact that there's 45,000 bets made on the game combined, which is one of the highest on the board right now. 55% of the tickets are bet on Oklahoma State and 52% of the money. So, you know, it's surprising. Some big money must have come in on TCU, obviously, this morning to push this to 5. Jesse, what do you think here? Is this a pass for you, or do you think there's an opportunity?
Well, I mean, it's a pass because I haven't bet the game. But if you ask me what side I like Oklahoma State. You guys might remember I took Baylor in their matchup against Oklahoma State, and I bet against Oklahoma State a few times. I used some strength of schedule stuff to say that I wasn't a big fan of Oklahoma State, and I'm still not. But situationally, them getting points in this matchup and TCU coming off that huge, you know, the momentum of TCU still, they're still sort of in a letdown spot. And I will say that last week against Kansas, I wasn't actually watching the game myself, but I was following along in some of the chat forums. And from what I heard, Kansas should have got some PI penalties to extend their drive to tie that game or go ahead. Kansas got robbed was something that was trending on the internet after that game. So back to that Kansas game. If TCU is a 4 or 5 point favorite over Oklahoma, an unbeaten Oklahoma State team, Kansas must be pretty good.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. What do you think, Chad?
I've been on Oklahoma State since this line opened. I looked at what I started doing is I go in and I just read the lines with my gut first, and I just kind of jot that stuff down so that I can see, like, all right, as I start to look at the numbers more, how does that play, and you know how, because a lot of times I can, not necessarily paralysis by analysis, but I can talk myself out of my gut reaction to a game. And my gut is often right, you know, and so sometimes
Chad was kind of shy. I didn't know you were
extroverted.
So
I wish my gut would work.
Yeah, so I look at that. Mike Gundy, just like big games are like his playground. I think he's more likely a lot of times to lose a game that they should win. But whenever the chips are on the table and it's this sort of thing where, like, you've got some Big 12 championship chips on the line and also a path to the college football playoff on the line, I like, especially with the points, like, give me the points on that one. But I actually like a money line. I like them to win it straight up as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, Chad going for the big balls.
Yeah.
He's going to take the money line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we move on to a really good matchup here in a game, in my opinion, is probably the hardest one to handicap, involving the USC Trojans going against the Utah Utes. Utah Utes are favored over the undefeated USC Trojans, who I believe are ranked 6th in the last poll.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a top 10 team. They've won both their games previously by 14 or more points. And might as well just start us off on this one with this betting angle, which let's see if I can pick the right one here, folks. That's the NFL one. That'll come later. There it is. Now, we're going to bet on the under in this game, but this also kind of leans towards Southern Cal as well. So, you're going to bet at the under when the total is 60 or more points. Team USC coming off 2 double-digit wins. The team is undefeated on the season. Game is taking place, again, in the meat of the season between weeks 4 and 8. And look at the results. It's not that good on that part of it, ATS. But the under is, roughly 67% in that situation. But if we're the team we're talking about comes in as the dog, look what happens. 7-2 against the spread. And early in the week, I liked Utah, and I think I picked Utah in the gambling.com contest too. Which, Jesse, I'm leading with a 23-7 against the spread record for 77% winners.
Let's go.
I'm catching up to that 80% that you're hauling in right now, which is disgusting. But
83,
83,
44 and 10.
44 and 10.
No shit shall go untalked. I like it.
So that means, folks, you should go to predictiveplaybook.com right now and just get every single play that Jesse has released on our site and, benefit from it.
And as we say that, let me segue into why I'm going to bet against USC, because we expect regression to the mean because of their success, because of their 14-0 turnover margin. Things like that can't sustain themselves like a handicapper that's hitting 83%.
Or like you sustaining your ability to drink Taiwanese beer.
That's Asahi. I'm drinking Japanese beer. But yeah, the Trojans are 14-0 in turnovers this year, which is a big reason for their success. Now, you got to give them credit for, you have to play well to have a 14-0 turnover margin, but that you can't sustain that. You can't count on that. There are 2 road games, 8-0 turnover margin in those games. If they weren't winning the turnover battle, they'd be losing games, specifically the game at Oregon State. They really should have lost that game. I watched that game from start to finish. Oregon State dominated that game, really deserved to win. They blew it. The Trojans, I think they're in trouble here. Utah has won 22 of their last 23 home games straight up, I believe. The line looks a little fishy. I will say the line looks a little fishy, 3.5. But there's clearly a reason for that. And the reason is these are the games that Utah tends to win at home. And teams like USC that have benefited from things like a 14-0 turnover margin and have escaped those kind of games where they should have lost at Oregon State, they tend to lose these games. These are those. This is like that perfect setup where the Trojans, they're not going to go 13-0 this season, most likely. So this, where are they going to lose? This is that spot where they should lose. I came on here and said USC was going to beat UCLA last week. I was wrong, but I'm going with Utah again.
Yeah.
Utah.
This is their last, it's their first really tough opponent all year, because even that Oregon State game, that's Oregon State's solid, but they're not amazing. I look at, they beat Rice, Stanford, and Stanford's terrible this year. Fresno State, who's also not good. Arizona State, who's also very bad. And Washington State last week. Hey, listen, you know the real. It's Arizona State's not good. They're not good. Anyway, they got Arizona, Cal, and Colorado coming up. Those aren't good teams either. So this one, and then looking ahead to that UCLA matchup at the end of the year in Los Angeles, and then Notre Dame to round out the season. This is like one of those games where it's like, all right, yeah, we're going to go in here, we're going to win this game, and then we're going to, run the table and make it to the college football playoff. And I tend to agree with Jesse. Like, there's some regression to the mean that we should see here, and they're playing out out in Utah, like it's not an easy environment to play in. And yeah, I know Utah lost that game last week, but that was playing in Los Angeles against UCLA, and I like them to come back and show out that. I don't know what you mean. Can you explain what you mean by that line looking fishy, Jesse? Because fishy to me would suggest that either you think it's way too low or way too high. I actually think, looking at like the actual outcome predictors, I would think this line should be a little higher. But I know that the overall rankings and everything, so often this stuff is influenced by a BS poll that has no bearing on reality. And people look at this like, well, USC's number 7 and they're undefeated. Yeah, they haven't played anybody. Like,
right.
And they're going to be number 7 because the media wants to have a team from California in the, it's got to, no offense, Jesse. I know like you're a big West Coast guy, but we know that this is, you're going to have a lean towards that, the California or the East Coast, because that's where the lion's share of the media markets, the big media markets are. And so if they're tuned out of it and we're talking about is Oklahoma, Texas, and Alabama and Tennessee, then they're all going to just tune out for the most part. So sometimes that stuff gets overhyped, and a team like Utah, who will make it a bare knuckle fight for you if you're not careful, it gets overlooked.
So the question is, why is the line fishy?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I think if you did a national poll, who's better, USC or Utah? Everybody and their dog is taking USC right now, right? I mean, your average fan's going to say USC. I mean, they're undefeated. Look at all those transfers they brought in. They got Lincoln Riley, and as you mentioned, bigger market. They're more marketable than Utah. Outside of the Pac-12, nobody gives a damn about Utah, right? Whereas the Trojans do have a brand name, so you would expect more people to be on the Trojans this week in this spot. And I think a lot of people are. I think it might be one of those. I don't know if John could pull that up, but it might be one of those ones where 75% of the tickets are on USC, but 60% of the money is on Utah. And so fishy in that your average layman's going to look at this game and say, shouldn't USC be the favorite? That's what you're going to hear that a lot from your average fan. That's what I meant by fishy.
You're right, Jesse.
And I would compare it to the Kansas game. Your average fan's going to look at the Kansas game and go, "What? Kansas is a dog? They should be the favorite." And I still like Kansas, even though it might be considered square. But yeah, I mean, so I hope that answers your question about.
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
There's a 20% differential between the number of tickets and the money that supports Utah. So you're absolutely right.
The percentage so the smart money's on Utah.
Pretty even, but there is definitely a lot more money having been bet this week on Utah. Now, opening at 3.5 and now 3 could mean that the people from Southern California made the trip to Vegas, which isn't that far away, and they put their bets in. There's some big bettors coming out of Los Angeles that do make that trek every single week to Vegas, because California, in their infinite wisdom, has repeatedly declined to get state gambling going on for their benefit. And if there's a state that needs revenue coming in, it is that one, no question. But one of the guys I work with, Larry Henry at gambling.com, does some incredible work on gambling legislation and the movement and the trends. And if you have any interest in that at all, especially if you're a California resident, he's the go-to guy, and it's all absolutely current. He has a lot of breaking news types of stuff each week. So, that was a good opportunity to give him a little shout out there, because he really knows what he's talking about. He talks to everybody. Anyway, let's see, with the time remaining here, because I will be on the RotoWire show here at 11:30 with another shout out to Jim Coventry. If you want DFS information and want to win your office fantasy league, I'm telling you, he's the guy, man. He is just remarkable in knowing the names and the players. Like, we talk about teams and the analytics. He does that for each player. I mean, it's mind blowing, and these player props have just kicked butt, especially in the NFL the last several weeks. So he'll be giving those out, and then I give out some NFL information. But anyway, that's why don't we do this? Because it is 11:12 right now. Why don't we just do show best bets? And since I'm the host, who wants to go first? Because I don't want to. I haven't decided what I want to do for a show best bet yet.
I'm ready to go if anybody needs time.
All right, go ahead, Jesse. You lead us off.
Okay, my best bet is a 3-team money line underdog parlay. Penn State, Kansas, and Tennessee. I think that you got Kansas and Tennessee facing banged up quarterbacks, and Penn State's facing a team that hasn't been tested, got strength of schedule issues. There's an argument to be made that we're taking the better team as an underdog in all 3 of those games. Pays out 40-1. Thank me later.
I love it. I love it. Short, to the point, 3 dogs, and I'm not gonna. I might have to do another pizza money bet, including Oklahoma State, and make it a 4 banger. But then I'm becoming a pig. And as the saying on Wall Street goes, bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs, they get slaughtered.
All those other games are like 2-1 or better, though, and you're not going to get that in the Oklahoma State game. So to add that level of risk without getting the reward, it seems
it seems
that's why I use those 3 anyways.
Well, I'll go next here, and this is a game on the card tomorrow. And well, that's not tomorrow. Where is this thing now? There it is. We couldn't do a show without mentioning the Cowboys and the Eagles. And personally, I do think that the Eagles are the play here. This is going to be a premium play sent to my clients. So this gives you an example, although brief, of what the research is behind the play that you get by being a subscriber. But you're going to bet on any team with a winning record, and the Eagles certainly have that, being undefeated. They're facing a team that has seen the total in their games go under by 42 or more, and that's 7 touchdowns, not counting the extra points, of course, in their last 5 games. And the opponent has won at least 75% of their games. So we're not really worried about the 13-9 straight up, because the Eagles are now favored by 7. And that's the part I don't like about this, because it's gone from 4.5 up to 7. But the angle here is 17-5 against the spread for 78% winning bets. I can't ignore. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff from my predictive models too that clearly suggests that Jalen Hurts is not going to be sacked like he's playing like a Carson Wentz would get sacked, and that offense is really going to tear that defense apart. And of course, I could be wrong, but I think it's a great opportunity to get on a team that really has some mojo. And Jesse and Chad and Lady D, look what's going on in Philadelphia. The Sixers start out this week, right? Playoff contender for the World Championship. And some team named the Phillies needs one more win to send the reigning world champion Atlanta Braves home. And that game takes place today, right next to where the Eagles game will be tomorrow night.
Yep.
It'll be like that tomorrow night. It will be. It'll be an LSU whiteout at the Eagles game.
Did you back the Philly team in all 3 of those games?
I did in 2.
I had them yesterday. I'm like, oh.
Aaron Nola is pitching like Joe Musgrove, and look at that game too. I mean, the Dodgers could be eliminated later tonight.
Hey, so look, you got Aaron Nola and his brother Austin Nola. Both of them went to my high school. Both of them went to LSU as well. Getting it done. About to bounce both the defending champions, as you said, and the odds-on favorite to win the whole thing, the Dodgers. And can I just bask for a moment, because this moment may pass. The Dodgers may very well come back and win this series and go on and win the whole World Series, but it's looking very much like another year will come and go where the Dodgers will be one of the top 3 payrolls in all of baseball for like 40 years straight. and they still have one very questionable World Series to show for it, with the 2020 shortened season and everything else, and that sort of debacle that with pulling Blake Snell early with Tampa Bay, that Tampa Bay should have won that series. But anyway, I wanted to bask in that because I hate the Dodgers, because all they do is just spend money and get they literally have like the best free agent and the best trade piece every year, like if not 2 or 3 of them. Like last year it was Trey Turner and Max Scherzer. It's like, Jesus, man, y'all don't have enough. You got to go get like every best player on top of that every year. Anyway, so I'm enjoying watching them lose.
Be fully prepared then, Chad, to hate him even more, because I think Aaron Judge is going to end up wearing the Dodger blue.
It's very possible.
I do.
That would be okay. I mean, they just dig deeper into the pockets, and that's another one though. So the Yankees, come on, Guardians, because then it'll be 2 of the top payrolls in baseball getting bounced out of the playoffs, and I would love to see that.
Do you realize that Judge's salary, Stanton's salary, and I think Garrett Cole's salary combined equals the Guardians' entire payroll
for like the last 12 years combined? No, I'm just joking. It's but yeah,
the Cleveland Guardians are one of the lowest payrolls in all of baseball, and you have to love them just for that point. Like they're absolutely a 5th of the salaries of the Yankees. It's really amazing. But anyway, we better get to the Chad's best bet and Ladies D's best bet, and then we'll conclude the show. Unless you guys want to keep going.
Lady D, go
I'll have to jump off, but you guys can keep going if you want.
You go for it. Give us your best bet.
Okay, my best bet. Whoa. You see, I have many best bets. Well, I'm gonna go take Tennessee +9, definitely. Syracuse -3, or I will probably take it to the -145 on the money line. Kansas,
you give them all if you want. You don't have to give just one.
I know. I'm like Kansas +10. I was really on Illinois, but now I'm kind of iffy on Illinois, so I got to see what's going on with that. So basically, it's Tennessee, Syracuse, and Kansas State that I like the most. So, I mean, not Kansas State, Kansas University. So, yep, that's it. Those are my three best plays. Everything that we all almost agreed to.
Yeah, we're on the same page for sure. Chad, you want to wrap it up for us with your best bet or bets? And
I'll just go with one. This is the one that I think is the one that I'm least emotionally attached to, because I hate Alabama, so I want Tennessee to beat them. I hate Michigan, so I want Penn State to beat them, and I hate Oklahoma, and I kind of want Kansas to beat them. So I'm going to stay away from those as my best bet, because I feel I may be biased a little bit. I'm still betting those, all the money lines and the spreads on those dogs, but my best bet is Oklahoma State plus the points at TCU, because I've watched Mike Gundy do this so many times before that he finds a way to, and the other thing is too, TCU, it's been a while since the Gary Patterson, where they were really good. Like there's a reason why he ended up moving on, and this is a new squad, a new regime that I don't know that they've been tested at this level yet as a program, where with this coaching staff and everything, where I think that this could be a point where Gundy and his experience in the Big 12 and in these big games with success actually presses some pressure points and really I think the experience plays out here in Oklahoma State. I think they win it straight up, but I definitely like them plus the 3.5.
Yeah, I like them too. I think they win outright. So I'm going to sprinkle the money line a little bit on that one too. Mm-hmm. But I will take Jesse's advice and stay away from adding a 4th team to that parlay, because I like that parlay quite a bit, Jesse. That was Penn State, Tennessee, and Kansas.
Yeah,
40-1, baby, 40-1.
40-1. That's a lot of pizza, man. That is an awful lot of pizza.
You got a lot of editing work to do if that comes in. You're going to have to get the best lighting so I look the best in that, and we're going to be sharing that forever.
Mhm.
I must say though, it was a blast the other night. I was just sitting there, middle of the ninth inning, with Seattle beating Houston, and just having to know like who was coming up in the lineup, and that Alvarez guy. Anybody
Get
gets
to
on
Jordan
base,
Alvarez.
Alvarez
Yeah.
comes up, and I'm starting to think, huh. So I figured, well, what the heck? I'll put a few bucks on it. No big deal. So what if it loses? But it was plus 860. And lo and behold, I was sitting next to a guy and I flat out said, this next pitch is going to be a 3-run jack. And I couldn't believe it when it actually happened. I was just being a little, overconfident in my statement. But that's the only time I've ever put a ticket out on Twitter, but it was really to get Jesse Schule's attention that
Mhm.
I am paying attention and watching the games.
Yeah. Look, Robbie Ray coming into that game in that situation,
Ugh.
I don't understand. Like, it's a
I'm
starter
pissed
first
off.
of all.
I was waiting for Robbie Ray to get the start in the next game so I could fade them. I mean, you knew that Robbie Ray was going to get shelled. His numbers against Houston were terrible. He was terrible down the stretch. Yeah, that was really a terrible mistake.
The only one that's worse than that is Buck Showalter bringing in Ubaldo Jimenez in 2016
Yeah, I agree.
instead of bringing in Zach Britton, where it's like, right, you have the best closer in baseball, and you brought in a dude with a 7 ERA who is a home run waiting to happen, and you let him pitch to Jose Bautista, okay? Or was it Edwin Encarnacion? One of them just hit a bomb
Bautista,
and walked him off. Yeah,
I think it was Batiste, but still one of them. Yeah, it was a bomb.
yeah. It's like, well, we'll never know if Zach Britton could have shut him down because he's still in the bullpen waiting to come in, and you're off until April. Good job, Buck. Anyway, I know you got to go, John.
Yeah,
So-
that's okay. Lastly, I want to thank you guys for your time, and everybody that's viewing this. Please give Jesse and Chad and Lady D a follow, and then if you feel like it, you can give me a follow too, and that would be great. And also follow at gambling_com. That site is a global presence, 724. Anything you want to know about sports or sports betting, they have it. And it's done by guys like Larry Henry and a bunch of others. And it's a publicly held company. Actually, the ticker symbol is GAMB on the NASDAQ. And a very healthy, financially sound company that I can't say enough good things about. So make sure you give them a follow too. And then if you're up to it, give us a subscribe here at the Predictive Playbook and help us get up to 1,000 subscribers sooner rather than later. That'd be much appreciated too. So anyway, let's let Jesse Schule take us out of here because I get tired of saying what I say all the time. But Jesse says it was such enthusiasm and passion. So we'll let him do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, remember, bet with your head and not over it, and may all the wins be yours.
Well done. We'll see you next week.